and welcome to We're Already Here, a podcast about celebrating who we are, the highs and lows in our lives, and understanding the story that we've created for ourselves. Today, I am so hyped to be here with Dani. Dani is a certified mastery, trauma-informed life coach and motivational speaker. She's also the president and founder of One Special World organization, a national organization aimed at special needs advocacy, volunteerism, peer education, and fundraisers, where 100% of the proceeds go to build a future group home for young adults with developmental disabilities. She was also formerly a fitness instructor and blogger for Let Health Heal. Dani is also a best-selling international author of a book called Intuitive Knowing Her Truth. And as she'll get into a little bit more detail in a bit, she saved her own life from a physical medical mystery and mental health journey. So, Dani, I could not be more excited to have this conversation with you. For the listeners, Dani and I go way back. I met her my freshman year of college. So this is such a beautiful reunion. So, Dani, thank you for being here. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. And I can't believe how long college was. It's wild. I'm like stumbling over my words, but yes. I mean, with COVID, I feel like it's been a lifetime and a half ago.
Absolutely.
But first of all, I love seeing you in your light. I'm so excited to be here. And thank you. And I forget what your question was because I got so excited.
Just how are you?
I'm great. I'm excited. How are you?
I'm good. Oh man. So can you tell me and the listeners a little bit more about yourself and your journey?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, to whomever is listening, I just want to start by saying I'm a human, just like everyone else. I have good days, I have harder days. I cry, I scream, I make mistakes, and I also live a life that I truly love and that I believe I've created. And I am a heart and a soul and somebody who I believe is here to do beautiful work and uplift those around me, as well as inspire others to uplift themselves and those around them. And essentially, yes, I have many titles. I'm a life coach, motivational speaker, meditation instructor, author, all of these things. But most importantly, we all have many labels, right? But most importantly, I just am somebody who deeply cares about this world. And I used to think that caring about others before myself was the answer. And I learned quickly, not quickly, rather, it took me over 20 years to learn that that's not sustainable. And as we'll get into, it led me into a hospital bed, both physically and mentally. And when I started to really care for myself and preface my needs and speak my truth and set boundaries, my world changed. And as my world changed, both I got to forgive myself and people and their patterns from the past. And I also made space for people to forgive me for setting up a dynamic that I couldn't follow through with anymore. And what I mean by that was I was a people pleaser. I gave everything I had and more. And it's challenging once we start setting boundaries, because yes, there are people who may disrespect a boundary because maybe that relationship isn't healthy. And there are also people who may disrespect a boundary because they're not used to it. They're like, who is this? Dani, I thought you would do this for me. Like, what the heck? You're my best friend. Innocent.
Yeah.
However, it was 2019 was the year that I had the most, I don't even want to say confrontation, because some of them were loving disagreements, some of them were just healthy letting go, but the most up-leveling conversations of my life. And I learned how I can forgive myself, how to allow people to forgive themselves, and how to be with when I or somebody can't forgive. And it was like, with argument comes the opportunity for forgiveness or not. And this theme of forgiveness and letting go was really brought to the surface.
Wow. Yeah. For the listeners as well, that will be the theme of the majority of our conversation. Normally I end with a plug, but I think it's relevant here. I want to start with a plug. Dani has recently put out an Empower You course. Dani, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Beautiful. Thank you. And so the Empowered You is literally my life's journey in 10 weeks. And it's taking people who are huge hearted and mission driven, who tend to be leaders, whether it be in their professional or personal lives, however, may not have the time and space to really pour into themselves first. So they tend to be the overgivers, the overdoers, who people look at as empowered, confident, self-sustaining, but internally feel burnt out, overwhelmed and drained and are really looking to feel energized, freedom, and self-love. And we really take each other on a journey. I do it with them where we set a goal, we learn about people pleasing and boundaries and inner child work and shadow work, forgiveness, letting go, healthy communication and relationships, first with self and then with other. And then we celebrate, they graduate, they get a diploma, and they fly away. And it's just the most beautiful journey because it is the journey that has allowed me to not only survive, but thrive, and to put it into this 10-week opportunity. Right now, the cohort is full and we've begun. However, there's a wait list for the next cohort if anyone wants in, and just DM me. And essentially, it's just watching people reclaim who they already are.
Mhm.
And I think one of the greatest gifts in life is to become the best version of ourselves and reconnect with who we are and why we're here and what exactly you say our life story is, right? What is the story I create for myself, or
Yeah.
what is the narrative I choose? And I think as a life coach, the reason why I chose life coaching over therapy, I
Mhm.
love therapy. I think it's a beautiful space to clear emotional trauma and suppression from the past, to be
Yeah.
with acute trauma diagnosis, all these beautiful things. Separately, I almost lost my life, and I believe I am here to live my best life, and we have one life as this person, right? Danielle Nicole Prizer. I don't know what happens before or after, but this is my one
Sure.
life. And I want it to be my best life. And I have found through coaching people in different decades and generations that there is, I hate to generalize, but I'm going to say this
Yeah, yeah,
because
go
this is
ahead.
at least the cross section I've seen. As people get older, they feel as though, at least the people I've seen, they have less choice. And my view is we have
Mm.
more choice.
Okay.
Given time, space, obviously, like privilege, right? Then it's not as though we're children anymore, where we go to a said school, we live in a said town, we have academic year and then summer,
Yeah, yeah.
academic year and summer. It's like, okay, now all of a sudden I get to choose a job, God willing. I
Mhm.
get to choose a routine. I get to choose if I'm getting married, if I have kids, where I'm living, all of these
Sure.
things.
Yeah.
And I know that this is not everyone's story. However, it is the story of the people I work with. And I think once we start to see adulthood as choice rather than
Mm.
complacency, rather than autopilot, our
Yeah.
lives really change.
First off, thank you for explaining like your life coaching philosophy. I think that is super helpful. Just understand that's always a question that kind of peaks in my mind, the life coach versus therapy sort of paradigm. So thank you for going into that as well. How exactly did you get into life coaching? Like what were you doing before and what was that transition like for you?
Beautiful. So I actually started coaching when I was 19. And at the time, I had a medical mystery. So for those who are listening, my large intestine died. I had my large intestine removed. I was paralyzed. I had a miracle nerve surgery. And I know I'm just rolling that off my tongue, but a lot of things were going on. And
Yeah, you just
basically,
rolled like three of the most traumatic things I've ever heard off of your tongue.
no big deal, but they were blessings, blessings in weird packages. Uh, but so essentially, doctors, surgeons, Mayo Clinics, all of these people who were very respected, very intelligent, had no clue what was going on. And I knew at the time that my body was shutting down and I didn't know why. And I wanted to heal myself. So I became Dr. Dan. My name is Danielle. And essentially, I read all the books. I tried all the different types of diets. I tried all the different holistic practices. And I found what was essentially my remedy at the time. I'm no longer vegan, but at the time I was vegan. I got very into yoga and more from a mind state and a breathing pranayama state than even like the asana. My body wasn't able to
Mm.
always do the physical. And I saw the like true brilliance of the body, that it wants to come back to homeostasis and heal.
Mm.
And I was so inspired that I wanted to share it with others. So at the time, I did something called Institute for Integrative Nutrition. It's a
Okay.
health coaching course. I was pulled out early for a surgery, though I did do a majority of their learnings. And I was essentially teaching what I was learning to people, and people
Mhm.
enjoyed it. And it started a business called Let Health Heal. I became a
Mm.
blogger, a fitness instructor, health coach, all these things. And it was beautiful. Separately, it was short-term change. I was attracting people who wanted to lose weight, gain muscle, or maybe were struggling with chronic or terminal illness as well as medical mysteries. Separately, it started as a summer business, and then I went back to college, and then I was doing
Mhm.
it Google Meet. It wasn't even like this whole
Sure.
Zoom world yet.
Yeah.
And essentially I saw a short-term change, but I didn't see the longevity. And
Okay.
then my world shattered when I was 25 in 2019, and that was the reason why I re-stepped back into this space. And what I
Mm.
realized was the reason we don't create sustainable change habits, patterns, behaviors is really because of the underlying emotion or emotions, not because we
Mm.
don't know how to create habits or behaviors. Though some people may not know, we can Google it, we can look it up, but what's really
Sure.
in the way is the trauma underneath. And in 2019, my dad passed, and that was really my wake up call.
Sorry.
Thank you. And honestly, may he be in a better place, strongest man I know, and very challenged life. So I really hope that he's in a better space, and he's at my desk. So I'm looking at him right now. I could show him to your
Oh, do
viewers.
it. Do it. Yes. Oh, what a lovely picture.
Yeah, he's my
That's
honey.
so
He's
cute.
my honey. That's what I say about my brother who's over here. My dad's not my honey, but I love him too. But my whole family's at my thing. My mom is here too.
Aw.
So anyway, the bottom line is that this was when I first was in a really dark vortex where then I entered my hardest mental health journey. And when I started to step out of that space, this was when forgiveness and letting go were the prominent themes. Letting go of my
Mm.
dad, right? Letting go of what I know, letting go of the fact that I don't know what happens after, and also forgiveness of what had happened in the past. Nobody's perfect, whatever, be beautiful soul, and speaking my needs to friends. And I
Mm.
had more beautiful, close relationship integrations than I've ever had in my whole life. And I had more friendship breakups than I've ever had in my whole life. And it
Mhm.
was really and I also had broken up with my partner. It was really learning that,
Oof.
yeah, a lot of breaking the ties, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's
but
tough.
it was full on learning. And I learned so much. And I think forgiveness is a topic that a lot of people struggle with. And I'll speak for myself. I definitely struggled with it. It kicks up sometimes, the fears and insecurities around it. Separately, I do believe I have a method that works for me that has also helped clients at large.
Mhm. Yeah, that's remarkable. One thing that you mentioned that really struck a chord with me, because I think it's sort of a big pillar of my own life philosophy, is the reason that we can't sustain good habits or break bad habits is really, it's not our discipline, it's not our inability to do the thing, it's our relationship with our emotions, us not
Mm-hmm.
listening to them, the trauma behind the decisions that you're making subconsciously. That is a big philosophy of just how I live my life and sort
Mm-hmm.
of how I interact relationally with other people. So that's very, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
encouraging to hear. I see that we're aligned there. And the second thing on forgiveness, as I mentioned earlier, that'll be the topic of the conversation. For me personally, I think the act of forgiving someone has not always come to me easily. It's something that's come to me more easily in the past, I'd say like three years. But when I am the one who needs to be forgiven, I feel like because I am so easy to forgive, I always expect that same ease of other people when it comes to forgiving me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
Um, can you tell me more about your perspectives of forgiveness and letting go?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing. And I just want to honor that I used to be very, very, very forgiving. And the truth was that in my experience, I was being passive and I was letting
Mhm.
things go and roll off my shoulder that eventually built up. And then I found that I was very resentful. So I think that if anyone's listening and resonates with that, like, oh, breezy, go with the flow, all's fine, that's
I'm
great.
so cool. Yeah.
Right, right. That's great if it's our truth, amazing. And if it's not, amazing as well. But it's like knowing, am I holding any resentment or anger towards behavior that occurred? Not even person, but
Sure.
behavior,
Yeah.
or am I not, And then what I would say with forgiveness is I think everything starts first with us. So a person that is having difficulty forgiving somebody else is
Mhm.
usually a person that also hasn't forgiven themselves.
Mhm.
And when we really sit with that, I think the first thing we get to sit with is guilt versus shame. So a lot of times we use these words interchangeably. However, they're very different.
Mm.
Guilt is a behavior related word. So it's I did something wrong. I did
Mm.
something wrong in the past, and therefore I can change it in the present or future, even if I don't necessarily have confidence in how to change it. It's a behavior, it's not me. Shame is I am wrong. There is something innately wrong with me that is fixed and ingrained and cannot be changed. And therefore, I need to hide or morph who I am, because if anyone knew who I am, they would never accept me. And it's so
Mm.
much more deeply rooted. And when we hold either guilt or shame about ourselves, it's so uncomfortable. Like, think about when you feel guilt, you feel it in your body. It's a
Yeah.
visceral
Yeah.
response that we want to project. We want to put it on other to make it that it's not our own, right? To put
Yeah.
blame or onus, and not in like a not in a criminalized way, just
Yeah. Yeah.
in a natural way. This is uncomfortable. Get it out of me. It's your fault.
Yeah, I always say I feel like shame
Mhm,
specifically,
mhm,
that feeling, it makes you hide. Brene Brown, I'm
mhm.
sure you're familiar, but for listeners, she has a lot to say about shame. She's done a lot of research around shame. And I think that's kind of a side effect of the pandemic. I feel like people are more quick to shame others and call them out versus call them in. And I feel like shame just polarizes people further because it makes you draw within. It doesn't make you empathetic and loving. It makes you blocked off. So that's my
I
only
love
aside.
that. No, I would love to add to that. And exactly, love moves towards, fear moves away. And I think the my truth is we are only as sick as our secrets, and shame
Mm.
dissipates with compassion and empathy. And if we can really sit in a space of discomfort and meet somebody with love, with curiosity, with compassion, rather than judgment or separation, that's when we bridge rather than barrier. And the first
Mm.
thing shame wants to do is isolate and separate. And yes, I agree with the call out versus call forward. I love how you worded that. And I think it's not to say that we don't get to call people forward, call people into their best self, call people
Mm.
into the awareness of languaging and or actions, behaviors that feel unsafe to the recipient, but we get to do it in a way that they can hear it. And I don't
Yeah.
always have the perfect answer of how to do that. I also think I'm privileged and I'm white and all of these things that I may not know the answer, but I'm so open to hearing the answer. And
Mm.
I think there is a way to bridge the gap. And if you look at media thrive off polarization,
Oh yeah.
thrive off shame, blame, guilt. And it's that discomfort that then we want to watch more, because we want to blame other. We want to be in a narrative where it's not about us, but
Yeah.
actually then we have no power. Because if the narrative's not about us, then we can't change the narrative.
That's fascinating. So in the gap that you're mentioning,
Mm-hmm.
we're like, we need to be able to call people in a way that they can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
What is your advice, or like even I hate the word tips because it sounds
Mm-hmm.
cheap, but like your tips on finding the way that the other person can hear
I love that. And it's so funny because when you equated tips to cheap, like I was a server my whole life, and I'm thinking like,
it.
hey, I make good tips. But that's a beautiful question. And what I would say is, so when we're looking at judgment versus discernment, right? Discernment is seeing what is safe and what is unsafe in a healthy lens. It's like, okay, danger, don't go that way, right?
Okay, yeah.
Where judgment is more ego based in a way where the ego, or I like to say ego, is little us. It's literally 2-year-old Rhoda or whoever else is listening that doesn't know any better and is using these survival patterns that once kept us alive. And so what does ego think keeps us safe? Maybe is pointing, right? Like, you're bad. Little me, Dani, 100% did that,
Sure,
right?
sure,
Like, my
yeah.
brother did it, not me. And so therefore it's just looking at, am I pointing a finger and speaking from a younger part of me that's just afraid to take ownership, afraid of being unsafe?
Mm.
Or am I really speaking from my highest and truest self that understands what is healthy and safe for me in this moment. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
It was tangential a little bit, but essentially, I think you asked, how do you call people forward, right?
Yeah.
So
So
it's
like, how
not
do
using
you,
judgment.
okay, not using judgment. Okay, fair. Great. Yeah, that makes total
I can
sense.
add if you want.
I would love that.
Okay, no problem. So essentially, I think it's first looking the person in the eyes, and this is going to go into a little bit of the forgiveness work. And this
Okay.
is a little woo-woo, but here we go.
I'm in.
Essentially, for people, beautiful, for people who believe in reincarnation, our souls have done it all. If you are in a body right now with a soul that is loving and kind and compassionate in a previous life, in a karmic cycle, there was a point where you hurt somebody because you were hurting. And I'm using you language because that is the philosophy of reincarnation. Separately, with that being said, if I can look somebody in the eyes and say, irrespective of if I've done this in the past life, right? That's a little woo-woo. If I were this person, meaning this exact person, nothing to do with Danielle Nicole Prizer, if I lived in their body, had their heart, had their lived experience, had their privilege or lack of privilege, had their consciousness, which is literally their mind, their heart, their perspective, I would have done the exact same thing because I would have been them.
Yes.
And if we can really put ourselves in there, like I think it has to like seep and sink in. If I literally was living this person's experience as them, I would have hurt me too. And I would have been hurting, and hurt people. And compassion is putting ourselves in their shoes. And it's like people don't know better if they haven't been taught better. Is it excusable? No. Understandable? Yes. Justifiable? No. But how can we say it in a way that they can hear it? And if they can't hear it, then we gift ourselves the permission to lovingly let go and walk away.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah. That makes complete
Thank you.
sense. Yeah. I also love what you said earlier about forgiving. It's more about forgiving the behavior, not the person. Can you dig into that too? I love
would
that.
love that. I would love that. Yes. Thank you so much. So first and foremost, I think for viewers, if you close your eyes and you listen to your thoughts right now,
I'll do it with you.
Okay, beautiful. Some people may be aware of this, some people may not. So welcome, open-minded. So if you listen to your thoughts right now, you can literally hear your thoughts. So if you can hear your thought, you're not your thought. You are the observer, the witnesser that hears the thought. And that is the part of you that is perfect, whole, complete, and not yet finished. That is the part of you that is love. That is the part of you that transcends, that is soul, whatever it be. And so if we can look at thoughts and behavior similarly, like as if you're watching a roller coaster, I am not the thought. I am the awareness of the thought. I am not the action or behavior. I am the body, the person who witnesses it. And it separates us a little bit because it also removes guilt and shame. Shame is I am. Shame is I don't like this person. Guilt is I don't like this behavior.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. Wait, can you say that one more time? I want it to sink in.
I love that. So it separates the person and behavior in a way that shame is I don't like this person. Guilt is I don't like this behavior.
I love that.
Thank you. And the thing also with partnership, with friendship, right? It's like we want to be on each other's team. So it's, I want to be here with you. I love you. I care about you. And this behavior, I feel uncomfortable when I experience this behavior. How can we be on the same team and upgrade this behavior rather than we're against each other at war?
I love that. Me and my partner now, we say that all the time, that we're a team, where we say we're both Greek. So we say like, we're like omada, like a team. So that's really nice.
I love that. I love that. And, you know, I think the beauty of my profession is I've really been able to see people's very intimate experiences. And I've seen also what I believe are the difference between red flags and non-negotiables in relationships. So a red flag is something to be cautionary, something that maybe feels unsafe or needs some communication or outlook. So for example, maybe if somebody is with somebody who tends to have more passive aggressive tendencies or silent treatment or anything that could be quote unquote emotional abuse, but not with malice under it. And it's more so just in a space that we can heal it rather than criminalize it. And then it gets louder. And a non-negotiable is like, okay, when somebody does this, I I'm out. I don't feel comfortable anymore. I don't feel safe anymore. And what is a red flag for one person may be a non-negotiable for another, or vice versa. Like I've worked with
Sure.
people, an example would be, and this is a total non-judgmental safe space for whomever's listening. So anything I mention, I have no judgment of any behavior. So I just want to put it there. So separately, I've worked with people who are on both ends of infidelity. And sometimes people, infidelity is a red flag. It's something to be cautious about. It's something that warrants conversation. It's something that warrants compassion. That person is looking for love in other ways and gets to turn the mirror back on themselves. Separately, for some people, infidelity may be a non-negotiable. And that's okay. But it's like getting clear on the red flag non-negotiable and then having the conversations when we see the red flag so that it doesn't necessarily become the non-negotiable. Because there is a lot of things that can be prevented with forgiveness and healing work. And something else I'll drop here is like trigger and repair work. So essentially what that means is, let's say something happens between two partners, right? And there are the facts and then there are the feelings, right? And we always intermingle them because, first of all, our emotional brain is not logical and it tends to just take over the facts. So what trigger and repair work is trigger work. Two people will separate for doing this work, and you can do it with friends, you could do it with mentors, you could do it with any dynamic, but essentially you separate. And you literally can get a pen and paper, or you can just think to yourself, like, what happened? Sticking to the facts. So-and-so came home at this time, period. So-and-so said this verbatim, period, without any emotions. Okay. What did I make this mean, or how did I interpret this is the next question. And that's a me thing. That's something I get to take responsibility to. What, if anything, is this connected to? And what do I want moving forward? And then the partners, the people come back together and they speak their truth. Like, this is what happened, right? We can agree on what happened potentially. This is how I felt about it. This is why I felt about it. Because a lot of times we bring our past to our present. And this is what I need or want moving forward. I'm not forcing you to do this. This is just what I need or want. And you are free to say whether or not you want and need that and can provide that or not.
Sure.
And we both sweep our side of the street. So when we take personal responsibility and accountability, which is a huge part of the forgiveness work as well, we create a safe space for others to do the same, because defense is literally the first line of war. The second I say, I didn't do anything, it's all you, right? There's an Indian proverb: when I point a finger one way at someone, I point it 3 times back at myself. And it's like, the second I do that, not only am I pointing it at them, which creates defense, it's I'm failing to recognize my zone of genius, which is actually my taking safe control of my behaviors and emotions. And when I say, look, after reflecting, I recognize I did X, Y, and Z, and my intention was never to hurt you. And I'm really sorry if it hurt you. And I deeply care about you. And I know that intention and impact are not the same, but also please know that moving forward, I take ownership of this. This is my work to do. You are no longer the canvas that I'm going to paint this on. This is not your responsibility. And this is going to be a safe dynamic. And then all of a sudden, the person can also come back and say, you know what, like, I'm human too. Welcome to Being Imperfect 101. Like, that's why we're here, to learn, to grow, to make mistakes. And I just said this in a client session this morning. It's like, mistakes can literally grow our soul or shrink our spirit. And it's like, when we get into that shame, when we get into that guilt, our spirit literally shrinks, our light shrinks. We hide from the world what we're here to do. However, if we use it to take ownership, to grow, to admit that we're imperfect, that's when our soul expands. And I think it's really looking at the opportunity for growth rather than the opportunity for disconnection, because forgiveness is an opportunity to get so much closer rather than so much farther away or further away. And I think we fear, right, abandonment, we fear rejection, we fear all of these things. So we don't want to take accountability, because then we think, oh no, they're going to really think I'm a crappy person. And it's like, no, they actually think you're better.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. Is like, it can be so hard for like the impact versus intent conversation, because you can just get stuck in like, I didn't do anything, like I didn't do something wrong. And I think that can be so hard. To this exact point, I think the two things that make it hard to forgive from my perspective are
Mm-hmm.
shame and pride, which I think is like the
Mm-hmm.
opposite side. I know this is like a little bit off script, but do you have
I love
thoughts on that?
100%. So first of all, I just want to validate that. And I want to say that 100% shame and pride, right? Because we think all of a sudden when we take accountability of a behavior, it changes the worth of who we are.
Mm,
However, our worth, and this is something I want to say slowly, there is literally nothing more and nothing less that we could ever do that would change the worth that we already are. It's not a number. It's not numerical.
that's
The person who
profound.
is sitting in prison right now and the person who's Mother Teresa have the same worth. Beating, breathing human heart. Separately, there are people who honor and respect each other's innate worth and those who may not. And people who may not honor or respect your worth may not feel healthy and safe to keep in contact with. However, we just throw around, oh, he's not worth it, or she doesn't deserve that, or he deserves better. They deserve this.
Mm.
And it's like, no, we all
Deserve
deserve.
is always a tricky
Right.
word. I don't like that
Mm-hmm.
word.
Right. No, it's also like earning, right? It's external validation. It's I need to do X amount to earn my space on this place. And that is so not true. Like you are here. Congratulations, survival of the fittest. Like you made ancestry lottery. Like literally, you are here. And with that being said, you are innately deserving. And I think when we can really tune into the self-worth piece, that pride kind of sheds off. And the thing with pride and shame is they're very attached to the ego. And the ego, again, is just little self. It's self that's trying to keep us safe. And I actually love the ego. I think it's worked so hard to keep us safe. And usually it's ineffective. And
Yeah.
separately, but with that being said, it's like the ego, the reason why forgiveness is so hard, besides shame and pride, which were beautiful reflections, is that essentially the ego, the part of us that is protection, the part of us that is fight, flight, or freeze, the part of us that literally thousands of years ago would see a tiger and was like, get the heck out of here, and now looks at like an Instagram story as a red flag, you know?
As a tiger,
Yeah,
right?
right, exactly. Like, oh no, or so and so liked my thing, and then fight or flight also increases because of excitement, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, gotta be careful, you know. So with that being said, it's like, okay, so the ego thinks that if I don't forgive, I maintain a level of control because I can't control what happened in the past. So the only thing I think I can control is to hold on to this. And also thinks if I hold on to this tight enough, it won't happen again. That it's like
Mm,
creating this shell, which it is, but it's closing your heart. It's
mm.
closing the connection. It's closing the opportunity for repair. So it's innocent, but it's ineffective. And what happens is we get to teach the ego. Like imagine little you sitting in a corner crying, right? Media, society will tell us, oh, like, let's say little Dani, go over to little Dani, hold her hands and tell her, it's okay, you don't need to cry. But what that's actually telling little Dani is that she shouldn't feel the way she does. It's
Mm.
actually gaslighting what she's feeling. It's telling her not to be upset, and she is. So instead of going to the ego and saying, oh, you just have to forgive, just forgive. Like,
Mhm.
why can't you forgive? The ego's scared. It's like saying,
Sure.
well, how can I support you? It's okay to be scared. Why are
And
you
do you
scared?
think like pride and shame come from that fear, or like what invokes the other, do you think? Or is it like fear invokes the pride and shame?
A good, I think that pride and shame are both fearful expressions of behavior,
Sure.
and fearful emotions behind behavior rather. And I think
Mm,
that it comes from fear. It's like, okay, either I can take the high route and pretend I'm better than this and protect myself that way, or I can coil and take the low route and protect myself this way. But it's two sides of the same coin. It's like the person who is extremely cocky and the person who is extremely low self-confidence, two sides of the same coin, which is just not healthy integrated ego. Not good, bad,
mm.
right, wrong. And I think something else I wanted to drop
Yeah,
earlier
yeah, yeah.
when I heard you say like I don't want to be wrong or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. And so my truth is that there is really no good, bad, right, wrong. And what I mean by that, look, there are evil things that go on planet Earth. Like I am not sitting here telling you that the world is hunky dory.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Separately, in a wild, wild way that is way beyond my cognition, if I were to look at what happens in the world, even the deepest and darkest atrocities from a 360-degree view, I have no clue if that's good or bad. Meaning, I have no clue the ripple of that painful event on the profound experience of the future. Like, things rock our world, literally destroy and rebirth this world, so much so that amazing things come. And it's like, for example, if I look at my dad's life was so hard. Like, I could literally get choked up right now thinking of all of the things. And with that being said, he birthed me. And I believe part of my life is to alchemize his life into medicine, to teach others what he taught me, what he went through pain and strife to do. So if I were to just look at his life and just look at the lived experiences that he had, or the trauma that he experienced, I could say that is horrible. But from a 360-degree view, I have no clue 10 generations from now if maybe his trauma produces another Mother Teresa. And it's like, we don't know. And I think when we do things to others that hurt, right? What happens on the edge of fear is growth. What happens on the edge of pain is rebirth. Like, think of a woman giving birth without any epidural. Honey, she's in pain. Okay, that shit hurts.
Yeah.
And I haven't even done it yet.
No, I
not
know.
for a few years. Like, no, not for like several years, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
No,
whatever,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I'm not there
That
yet,
shit looks
but
hard.
yeah. And all my friends are like doulas. We're living on the West Coast now, and they're like, "Oh, natural birth." I'm like, "Okay, we'll see about that when that comes." But with that being said, it's like, yes, so much pain, but not good, bad, right, wrong.
Sure.
And yes, we can have a behavior that evokes somebody's internal experience of pain. But who am I to say if it's good, bad, right, wrong? For me, forgiveness is not welcoming someone back in necessarily. Forgiveness is, I'll tell you my process, is one, forgiving myself, right? Forgiving myself for the misunderstanding that it could have been different, or for the misunderstanding that I acted X, Y, or Z, because I did it already. It's over. And it's like, there's something called compassionate self-forgiveness, which one of my trainings taught me. And it's like, I forgive myself for judging myself as bad. The truth is, I'm a good human, or the truth is, I did the best I could, or the truth is, I care so much for the world.
Sure.
And so it's compassionate self-forgiveness. And then it's time, right? Divinity has a time clock that is not our own. Then it's acceptance. So it's really accepting, which doesn't mean compliance, doesn't mean liking. It means literally it was what it was, period. And there's nothing I can do about it now, period. It's over, period. As if it were raining 10 days ago and I wanted to go in the sunshine. Like, it happened. It's done.
Right,
There's nothing I could do about it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I think of a different way than acceptance, because I think acceptance has connotations that are not exactly what I'm trying to say, but I haven't figured out the perfect word to say it.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's just recognizing the past is over, and what happened. And it's this false level of control to hold on to the past, where I'm just eroding myself rather than changing the past.
Yeah.
And then it's the compassion. It's, if I had this person's lived experience, life perspective, state of mind, state of heart, body, privilege, lack of privilege, whatever it be, if I was literally that person, putting myself in their shoes, I would have done the same thing.
Right.
And hurt people.
That's a lot to take in. I feel like I'm digesting. I'm rarely left speechless, but that, that's wonderful.
It is a lot. And I'll just repeat it slowly so that people can do it in their own. But so it's the self-forgiveness. It's allowing for time. It's accepting the past. And then it's literally being in compassion for, if we were living their experience, we would have done the same thing. And that doesn't mean that we keep them in. It doesn't mean we allow behaviors, but it also doesn't necessarily mean that we have to cut them out if there's someone we really love.
That's so profound.
Thank you.
My final topic specific question, I wonder if you could give us a little rapid fire, because I know we're coming up on time. Do you have any tips or just like tactical exercise you could do when you feel the pride coming up, that like
100%.
it wasn't me, I didn't do anything, like what to do to not suppress that, but just not act on it?
Okay, beautiful. So first of all, thank you for being so open, and we all have it. So people are definitely going to benefit from hearing this. And so
I hope so.
I actually have a few different tips. One is, have you ever heard of like a pillow release?
No.
So it sounds like a kooky woman here, but essentially you take I am, but that's okay. You take a pillow and you literally like hit it and you scream and you curse. Right. Exactly. You know,
Wonderful.
you scream and you curse. Yeah, exactly. We were fitness instructors. Got to
Yeah,
myself here because I'm going like this and I look like I don't know what I'm doing. So anyway, so you scream and you curse and no filter. No bad thoughts, no bad emotions. You can say anything you want and you just get the yuck out prior to engaging in conversation. So that's one, it's just energetic anger clearing. Anger is not a bad emotion. If you close your eyes and you be with anger without the story in our head, just the sensation in our body, that fire, that heat, that enlivening is also empowering. Like it literally feels the same in our body. It's when we start to listen to the story that all of a sudden it's good, bad, right, wrong. Anxiety, excitement, same sensation, different story. Then all of a sudden we present differently. But if we can mute the mind and not act out of the story and just be with the sensation, our life changes. That's a whole other topic, but here we go. Okay, so with the pride, first, it's saying, I see you. Because that part of you just wants to be validated. That part of you just wants to be heard. And it's looking for it in whatever way, whoever will see it. So if it's not feeling heard inside of us, it will project externally. It will try to get other to see that. So it's like that little girl in the corner. If I say, I see you and I support you, and how can I help you? Or what's going on here? What's underneath this? What do you fear would happen if you released the pride?
Okay.
Then we start to hear what actually the fear is underneath, which is the vulnerability. And when we speak from the vulnerability in a safe place, that's when things change. So I would ask self, and you could even ask yourself this, is like, what do I fear would happen if I weren't in pride?
Sure. What do I fear would happen if I weren't in pride?
Right. Or you didn't express pride. What is pride protecting? It's a protector of a vulnerability.
I will be using this.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. But it's actually, such a nice bridge to any goal. Because a lot of times I work with clients on goals. I work with clients on an internal goal and an external goal. So internal goal is, how do I want to feel? Confidence, calm, self-love, body neutrality, body positivity, a feeling. And external goal is, what do I want to get, right? A raise, a job, break up, start dating, whatever, be tangible. Separately, a lot of times we think we want something, but there's a part of us that's afraid that we wouldn't get something, or something would happen if we got it. So what do I mean by that is, let's say I work with somebody who wants to have a 6-figure business. Okay. Foot on the gas, wants a 6-figure business. You go, girlfriend. Woo.
Yeah.
And then there's also a foot on the brake, because unconsciously or maybe subconsciously, this person fears that if I were to have a 6-figure business, what do I fear would happen? I would be burnt out. I would have health problems. I wouldn't have friends. I wouldn't have time for this. So if we can clear the fear, we can upgrade the behaviors to meet the goal. So it's the same with pride. Okay, I want to be in a dynamic where I don't have to act from pride, right? Let's just say. So that's the goal. Yeah, I want to respond in love. I don't want to respond in pride. But what do you fear would happen if you did respond in love and not pride? What is pride doing for you? Because everything we're doing is serving us in some way, right? And we get to understand and then lovingly upgrade. Just like we upgrade our computer or our phone, we get to upgrade, because it's innocent. It's just ineffective, because it's creating division rather than a bridge.
Yeah. I can't wait to journal about that later.
If you have any questions, you send me messages. I love this.
I definitely will. Great. So before we move on to the last 3 questions that I asked anyone, is there anything that you didn't get to say in this conversation that you would like to?
I would just like to say, whoever's listening to this, I give you full permission to be human. And what it means for me to be human is to feel your feelings, to emote your feelings, to take ownership when we make mistakes, to understand that people are going to make mistakes, to be okay that healing is a process, to be okay that you may want people in your life that don't feel safe to forgive right now, or you may forgive people and it feels great, but there's no pressure, or what am I looking for? Like, there's no grading system for how to be the best.
I was going to say rule book. Yeah,
exactly. Like, we get to learn as we go. And I think we're used to literal grades reflecting how and who we are, literal numbers, right? Reflecting how and who we are. And it's a myth. we're so much more than any number could ever give us value for. Break the
Sure.
scale, break the salary, break the test, right? There's nothing that could put metrics on what being human means. And when we can understand that nobody's going to play this game perfectly, we create space for us to step into and evolve into our best selves. And we also create the space for others to do that.
Wow. Thank you so much. I feel like you've just imparted so much wisdom. I can't wait to listen back to this and just soak it all in, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you're the facilitator. So you're in this as much as I am. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I'm glad. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, last 3 questions. This podcast is all about celebrating the lows just as much as the highs in our lives. Can you tell me about a struggle that sucked while you were going through it, but looking back now, you celebrate it? What did that struggle give you that you cherish today? So I don't know which of the tens of traumatic events you'll be sharing for this question, but I'm sure it'll be juicy and enlightening and
yes.
all of that.
You know what I'll say? I would say COVID, actually. So during COVID, I was living at my childhood home and I hadn't lived there in years. And at first I was like, oh no, like this is going to be a challenge, like Ram Dass says, if you want to see your enlightened, go spend a weekend with your parents and see what happens.
Yeah.
And here I am, like Miss Independent. This is, the antithesis of what I want. And essentially when I went back, it was the most medicinal experience in my life. And I really got to see, my dad had already passed, but I got to see my mom for the human she is and the human needs she has, and not like what I wanted her to be or what I needed her to be, but just who she is, which is a heart and a soul who, just like everyone else, is going through human experiences and doing the best they can.
That's beautiful.
I got to be with my angel brother who has something similar to autism and is like literally my pride and joy. And I got to really sit in a space that was literally my trauma vortex that I didn't want to like put one toe in for a year. And then I stayed in New York for even over a year, but for a year. And now it's my home. It's one of my homes. And I think that like, it's just to inspire people that healing happens, forgiveness happens, and there's no time clock. I mean, it had been like a decade, like it was a long time, honey, but it happens. It really happens.
Yeah.
And I think that when we heal internally, then we're more okay holding things on the external. But I know in my experience, I was so hurt internally, and I am somebody who had a struggle, like not a struggle, a story of bypassing a lot of the stuff that had happened and just happy-go-lucky, smile. Some of it was resilience, a lot of it was also repression. But it got me to where I needed to be. But separately, I was so fragile on the inside because I was holding so much pain that it was very hard for me to be with people who may have behaviors that would add more pain because I'd already been experiencing pain. And now I feel so much more freedom because I've cleared the inner pain to the best of my ability. We can excavate, but I've cleared the inner pain enough that people can make mistakes and it's safe to forgive them because I'm not so fragile inside that just like the poking of the bear is going to hurt me, And it's an inside out. It's an inside out.
Yeah. Just, I feel like as you were saying that, the word that kept coming to my head was like self-regulation, like being able to take the external stimuli and just like self-soothing to the point where you don't let those external stimuli dictate your behavior.
Exactly. Beautifully said. 100%.
Amazing. Next question. How have you worked to change how you perceive the world around you? And how have you worked to change your thoughts and beliefs into ones that serve you and create a world you want to live in?
I love this question. So essentially, when I was younger, I was a complete undersharer. I shared nothing. Okay. Like, and I know it's surprising.
I've never in my life been an undersharer.
Well, honey, the pendulum swings one way, it goes the other way. So then I was sharing everything and anything in between. So now I would say I learned that the undersharing, the suppression is what kept me sick. We're only as sick as our secrets. Literally, my body was holding so much garbage that my large intestine, our literal garbage disposal, died. Like it was so full of shit, pun intended.
That's crazy.
Right. Why?
Crazy.
Separately, I also learned that by being vulnerable in safe places, by speaking my story, and I know that probably listeners think or feel that they've heard a lot, and this is just layer one, honey. We got layers and layers, but regardless, it's like I hope it's enough that people feel the human in my story. And I do want to be a motivational speaker in big arenas and share beautiful things that hopefully enliven people to live their best lives. And I'm still navigating what I want to share and what I don't want to share, but separately.
So any of my event planners listening, make sure you hit Dani up.
Thank
Her ads
you.
will be in the description.
Thank you. I appreciate that plug. And so with that being said, it's undersharing kept me sick, and oversharing was a false way to like regulate that pattern, but actually in the middle is healthy and safe vulnerability and bravery. And it's sharing emotively, it's sharing bravely, but it's also keeping what's sacred. So the pattern I changed was being human, was showing people that I cry, was showing people that my life isn't perfect, right? That things are going on, and choosing the spaces and places that are safe to really go deeply and emote.
Wow, that's great.
Thanks.
So the final question, tell me the story that you've created for yourself.
The story that I've created for myself, it's not a quote that I came up with, but is life is rigged in my favor. And when I really believe life is rigged in my favor, life is always rigged in my favor. It's like when the horrible things are happening, right? In the moment, super painful. I mean, I was in deep, deep, dark waters. And if you told me this then, I don't think I would have liked you very much. But right now, I'm in a space where I can literally see how that happened for me, not against me. And that story, life is rigged in my favor. Everything is rigged in my favor. Everything is rigged in everyone's favor. It's like I can look at somebody who's suffering. I can be with them. I can hold space for them, but I don't have to fix it for them. First of all, I can't. It's an illusion. And secondly, because somehow this is happening for them so that they see their growth. They see their soul expand. They step in rather than out of their life experience, God willing. And I think it's just really helped me frame things that I don't know. I'll never know. There are really painful things that happen in this world, but I've also experienced deeply painful things within my own experience that have transmuted into light, and in ways that I would have never known looking forward, but I can clearly say and see looking backward.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Thank you.
Dani, thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking with me. This conversation was soul nurturing for me. It was so beautiful. So thank you for sharing so much of yourself and sharing so much of your wisdom. Where can people find you?
Thank you so much. And truly, you're such a light and you're glowing right now. So I just want to reflect that back to you. You're so welcome. And I would say the best way to reach me is on social media. So my handle is at Danielle Nicole Preiser, Preiser. Also, my website is daniellenicolepreiser.com. However, social is the best way to really connect with me. And I love to voice note and literally hear who the community is and how I can best serve those, even if it's just in a post. But I want to know who you are, what you're experiencing, and how I can be of support.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Dani. This was awesome.
Thank you. You're awesome. Thank you.